A warm welcome to the third session and the last session today in this 2-day event called Bold Buildings, hosted by Smart City Sweden, broadcasting live from Dubai and Stockholm. Bold Buildings, best practices from Sweden. My name is Susanne Rudenstam. I'm Managing Director for Swedish Wood Building Council. In the 2 previous sessions, we have talked about what defines a sustainable city and how digitalization and modern wood building technology could be an enabler. We have also talked about how municipalities and regions can develop their knowledge on wood construction and their competence in procurement in order to be able to set higher demands on their suppliers. Now it's time to show you some really good example of what the best of wood construction looks like. With me here in the studio, I have Oskar Norelius and Robert Schmitz, both architects at White Architects, and Elsa Fahlén, Innovation Manager for the city of Gothenburg. And then Staffan, Schartner, in Dubai. Hello again, Staffan. You have your own Stockholm-based practice, Omniplan, but also spent the most of your recent hours as head of construction for the Swedish Pavilion at the World Expo, the Forest. Good afternoon to you too. We will be presenting 3 different projects, whom all seem to be utopic only a few years ago, but now being realized. It's the biggest CLT building in the world, the 20-story cultural center Sara, and the completely fossil-free kindergarten Hoppet. And then, of course, the all-wood structure in Dubai, the Forest. But we'll also touch upon innovation and setting the need for accelerating knowledge transfer in this fast-growing industry. And I invite you all listeners to take part in the discussion and to post your questions and comments. So, only 20 years ago, buildings above 2 stories were not allowed in Sweden. But thanks to changes in the building code, it's now possible to build tall buildings in wood. And the 2 of you have been responsible for designing and a 20-story building, 84 meters tall. Bold indeed. The cultural center Sara was inaugurated 1 month ago and has caught the eye of the world. You have talked to journalists from every corner of the globe. A sports question, but how does it feel to get such an attention for a building, for a work?
It's a great honor, and it's really fun to be a part of this and to be able to show this project. And this project has been such an inspiration to others to also join the movement of constructing in timber.
To show you what it's all about, we're going to run a short film.
This is the Sara Culture House in Skellefteå. Well, at least part of it. When it's completed in 2021, it will be 20 stories high, close to 80 meters tall, making it one of the tallest wooden buildings in the world. An architectural landmark for Skellefteå, but also for sustainable construction.
In 2016, my colleague Robert Schmitz and I won the competition to design the Culture Center in Skellefteå, which is both a culture center with several theater stages, 2 art galleries, there's the city library, and then a hotel and a conference center. And they can function on their own like they did before, but also start working in new ways of collaboration and using each other's spaces.
Even if you go to see a play or going to the library or going to a conference, you'll go to the culture center.
Combining so many cultural activities in one space is genius because it allows people to very easily have a cup of coffee and then, oh, let me go see this piece of art. Or, oh, is there a lunch theater performance now? It generates accessibility.
I would love this to be kind of this experimental kitchen. I think in the kitchen It's where you gather to do things.
These trusses, is it just for decoration or? No.
No, they're filling a function. It's a hybrid between steel and timber. And here we want to illustrate how the timber is good on taking pressure and steel taking tension.
What's unique with the Culture Center in Skellefteå is that not only the slabs and columns and beams are made from solid timber, but even the elevator shafts. So all of the supporting elements of the structure are made from timber, and that's unique for a building of this height.
My expectations of this building is that it will collaborate in a great way with the rest of the city, that it will actually be part of the city dialogue.
For me, it's giving a face to what we want to achieve. And I think it's a lovely building. I love it.
So I've lived in this city for 8 years, and I now live here permanently. I bought a house here, and I tell all my friends in Stockholm that this is the city of the future.
In every city, you can probably pinpoint one building that has really changed the path of the development, I'd say. And here it is most definitely this building, because from this building comes so many opportunities from an economical, ecological, and social point of view.
So it's a great movie. I guess you have seen it a couple of times or two. And you have been following the process very closely. I mean, the process of building the cultural center. What has been the greatest surprise to you?
I think the greatest surprise has been that we could do it this fast. When we started the competition, because this began as an architectural competition 6 years ago, building 20 stories in wood was unthinkable, I think. And now, 6 years later, it's already inaugurated and functioning. I think that's somehow is also a surprise today.
So the whole process went so fast, yeah. And to you, Robert?
And now I can just say that too. But I'm surprised the process has gone so smooth, and working with timber as a material, there were so many beneficents from that in the architecture that it really enhanced the architecture with the material.
Great. Is there any specific learnings or takeaway that you want to specifically would like to address?
Yeah, I think the biggest learning here is that when a large group of people really gets their heads into something and want to do something together, you can realize it, even if it's never been done before. And that once you launch yourself in a project with this much innovation, it really opens a lot of possibilities, because there's so much knowledge, and the knowledge is developed so much faster than the practice. So there's a lot of new things that you can put into buildings like this.
So knowledge gaining. One building that I find as exciting as Sara is Hoppet, the Hope in Swedish. It's a completely fossil-free kindergarten. And Elsa, you have been responsible for that process anyway, to initiate and to actually make the whole building happen. We are also going to look to see a short movie to present the project.
The City Premises Administration in Gothenburg, Sweden, was given the challenge to explore the world of materials to build a preschool as fossil-free as possible. The preschool is named Hoppet, which means hope in English. It is our starting point for the transition towards climate-neutral construction.
Alltså vårt uppdrag att bygga en fossilfri förskola, det kräver att vi minskar klimatpåverkan i alla led. Och det inkluderar ju råvaruuttag, transporter, det vi gör på byggarbetsplatsen och även driften sen då av byggnaden. Och vi ser ju att vi behöver mer trä till byggnationen. Och när vi använder mer träprodukter så behöver vi också säkerställa att skogen förvaltas och skördas på ett hållbart sätt med hänsyn till biologisk mångfald.
Some of the timber comes from forests nearby, owned by the municipality of Gothenburg. The trees were selectively felled to protect ecosystems and increase biological diversity.
Den här typen av skogsbruk innebär ju att det blir oerhört mycket mera eller bättre förutsättningar för biologisk mångfald i skogen. Och dessutom så är det ett sätt att klimatsäkra skogen och skogsbruket, därför att med det förändrade klimatet så kommer det mer störningar i skogen, alltså vind, torka, insektsangrepp och så vidare. Och ju mer mångfald, ju mer biologisk mångfald du har, ju mer varierad struktur du har i skogen, desto större resiliens har skogen.
The saws are almost fossil-free and climate compensated. Forest machines and all transports of wood and wood products are fossil-free. The wood is air-dried without the need of any additional energy, and the sawmill runs on renewable power. Hoppet shows us that we are ready for more sustainable construction methods. We are aiming for zero climate impacting emissions without harming biological diversity.
So when you started this project within the city of Gothenburg some years ago, at least I felt that your ambitions were more than bold. Who came up with the idea and how did your discussions about this all started?
Actually, it was our politicians in Gothenburg who decided that we will build a preschool as fossil-free as possible. And as you heard, it includes raw extraction of materials, transports, manufacturing, the construction processes, and also the operation of the building. And any remaining climate impact should be compensated for. And of course, that was a huge challenge for us, especially considering that there are few products that are fossil-free and climate neutral today. So when we started this journey and before the design phase, the whole team together decided that in this project we will have an open mind, we will be curious and brave. And I think that was an important starting point for this kind of innovation project.
Is that how you work with innovation within the city, or did you also innovate the process itself?
Yeah, in some sense we also innovate the processes because this is new for us to have an innovation project like this in this scale and with these high ambitions.
Is this project also connected to the greater plan of or the greater strategy for climate?
Absolutely, I can come back to that because I have a couple of pictures to show. And and when we started the design phase, we knew that the foundation and the frame correspond to the largest part of the climate impact from new buildings. So we put a lot of effort to find construction solutions with a low climate impact. And for instance, we use a frame based on wood from Swedish forests. So the exterior walls, interior walls, joist, and also the roof are based on wood. And instead of using a common concrete slab, we use a foundation made of a high share of recycled glass. So it's made of cellular glass insulation in a steel frame, and these are prefabricated and can be disassembled and reused again in the future. And together these construction elements contributed to a climate impact reduction by 70%. And at the site, we also have smaller accessory buildings, and we use them as innovation test beds for materials and technologies that we want to test and evaluate before we scale up in the coming projects. So we have used clay as a building material, and because we have a lot of clay in Gothenburg, and we will also use hemp, which is fast growing, also in Swedish conditions, and we have reused a lot of materials in these accessory buildings, in the outdoor environment, and also inside the main building. So this is one of our main strategies for fossil-free construction. And we can take the next picture. And so the preschool is almost finished. In December, we will hand over this building to the preschool administration. And in the beginning of the next year, the children and staff will move in. So now back to your question about how we will scale up this. Actually, recently our politicians decided and agreed upon a new environmental and climate program. And it says that we should reach near zero emissions in the construction of new buildings already in 2030. And in 2025, we should halve the emissions. So that means that we have to implement solutions with a low climate impact already today, and at the same time start new innovation projects like Hoppet to reach even lower climate impacts in line with this near zero emissions target.
So you have sharpened your goals on emissions. And climate.
We have, and actually from already next year we will add requirements on measures for climate reduction in all our new investments in buildings.
So what has the response been on being part of this test bed? As you said, the material suppliers has also been actively involved in.
Yeah, absolutely, they have, and in some cases we will also had to search new innovative collaborations to find the materials. And so, for instance, we have had a collaboration within a research project where suppliers developed plastic pipes made of installation waste, especially for Hoppet. So the suppliers have been really engaged in the project, and also the contractor and subcontractors and all the experts in the.
Will that also be a continuous business for those suppliers?
I think Hoppet has been a really important project for these different partners, absolutely.
What has been the greatest learnings and the hardest difficulties?
Yes, I think that maybe we can't build 100% fossil-free yet, but we can reduce the climate impact considerably by using technologies available already today, and as you also mentioned, and I think that's really good news, because that means that also other actors could do the same. And another thing is that reuse is our main strategy for building fossil-free construction, and everyone can do it. So that's a big learning that to reach near zero emissions, we need to reduce more products instead of using new products.
How will you build your next kindergarten?
In many different ways, actually. In Hoppet, we did everything in the same project. Now we will test innovative technologies and materials in different projects. So it will be easier for us to focus on each innovation and then hopefully scale up this. So we will have different solutions in different preschools.
Thank you. I think that we will get back a little bit to Sara, cultural buildings. And you have some slides. You prepared some slides to give us a little bit more in detail description of the building and how it's actually the construction is done.
Mm. Yes, so 6 years after we won the competition, Sara stands there in the center of Skellefteå, really mending the entire city and reshaping the city skyline. And this project has been about rethinking old ways and collaboration to find new ways how to build sustainable. And it ended up in doing a 20-story high-rise and the culture center totally in timber. And as the process went on, we used more timber than we were thinking in the beginning. So by all the stakeholders working together, finding new ways, I would say.
Yeah, and this is in a way it's a local project because it responds to the unique prerequisites in Skellefteå. Obviously, the needs for a culture center and a hotel, the city structure and the location. But also the timber industry that is located around Skellefteå. There's a tradition of building with wood since a very long time ago, but also today for certain types of buildings. To develop that tradition into this building is something that's very local. But it's also a response to a global issue with the climate and how we can broaden the application of mass timber to buildings of this complexity, this size, and an urban context. And we realized quite early that this would be a big challenge in many ways to realize this project within kind of normal budgets for a municipality in northern Sweden. So we decided that we wanted to make the timber visible throughout the entire building. You saw the culture staircase earlier on the screen. Also the grand auditorium, which is also fully fitted with timber panels for the acoustics. And in a way, this building has become a library of solutions for mass timber construction for all of the different parts that there is, from the small hotel rooms to the very large foyers that are flexible. And as you said, since the movie was made, the building has been inaugurated. It's in full operation now, and we've made an LCA analysis, a life cycle analysis, that shows that the building throughout its life cycle will be climate positive, with balancing effects from the carbon sequestration in the timber structure and the photovoltaic panels that are almost twice as large as the emissions related to the construction and operation of the building. So this really is a kind of a proof that already today it's possible to build in a climate positive way.
Already today, which is really good news. You were also challenging the wood construction industry. You just mentioned that the hotel rooms, for instance, they were prefabricated and completed in a factory and just
so the CLT was manufactured in one factory outside of Skellefteå that was transported into another factory even closer to the plot, and where they did the moduling part. And with the bathroom and everything, so all the fittings were done in the factory, and they just transported onto site and assembled. So we have 13 stories of 3D modules stacked on top of each other between these two shaft or stabilizing cores, also in CLT, and that's some kind of record as well, I guess.
I think it is, indeed. We will get back to the knowledge sharing part, as I know that you have been traveling the world now with a great demand for knowing how you have done it. And then we turn to the third innovative and groundbreaking building, the Forest. And we now change to Dubai and Staffan. That's a building that is built to challenge and inspire. And in addition, it aims to symbolize the absolute cutting edge in many areas. And in the same time, act as a developing place for meetings and collaborations. The expectations were high, and so are the ambition for Sweden's participation in the World Expo. So Staffan, could you please give us a short overview for all of us that has not the possibility to be with you in Dubai?
Sure, Susanne. I can tell you something about the pavilion. Maybe we can have an image. I got the question if I wanted to be responsible for this project in the summer of 2018, and then I said no, a blunt no, because Dubai is one of the most the least sustainable societies we can find on the planet. But after thinking a while, I realized that if this is a very unsustainable place, and here a lot of people from all over the world will meet. This is also an option to show that there is an alternative. So in the fall of 2018, it was the second stage of an invited architectural competition where 4 teams competed, and in the brief for the competition, timber was mentioned, but it was not a requirement that this should be a timber construction. But the jury was unanimously voting for this proposal that came from Rippellino Architects in Sweden, together with the Studio Adrien Gardère in Paris and Luigi Pardo in Italy. And in reality, it was a group of girls actually that studied together that were the core of this project. Hanna and Francesca and Malin and a couple of others. So when we had a project that was called The Forest, and who wanted to illustrate, to bring an architectural forest to Dubai, and also proposed to use timber technology. But of course, this is an architectural competition, and that means that the proposal ended with the ground. There was a line, and there was absolutely nothing below that line. And it was also not really clear how this should be constructed. So the pavilion is basically, half of it is an exhibition that is open to the public, and that is between the trees and the ground floor. And then it's a large conference part where we are right now, which is designed for meetings and for all the partners that we have in the project. It's to 50% financed by the Swedish business community and 50% by the government. So especially in the Swedish pavilion, the conference part is really important. And then of course there's an office and there's a kitchen and so on. And this is how the pavilion look today, or actually yesterday. I took it when I left a conference that Malaysia organized on sustainable construction. Very interesting, I must say. So you can see the tree huts standing on top of the shorter tree trunks, and there is a forest of approximately 300 trees. They all come from the south of Dalarna, where they were selected, and the bark was taken off, and then they were brought down to Dubai. And you also see the mashrabia, which is the Arabic-inspired but still Scandinavian lattice work that surround all the tree huts. So the tall tree trunks, there are 20 meters, but 2 meters are hidden in the ground so that they are standing there. Right. So when we had this winner, the next step was, of course, to decide how we are going to build this image. And being in the sustainability district of Sweden, it was really important to do the utmost what we can of bringing sustainability to Dubai. And of course, one part of this is all the technical installations. So it's a lot of things that we have in the ventilation, in the electrical system, in how do we take care of the sun. We have 1,000 square meters of PV panels, but also thermal solar panels. But of course, as we have been discussing earlier today, the carbon impact of the materials you choose for your construction are crucial to the impact that the building have on the planet. And I realized probably 10 years ago that steel and concrete are among the biggest crimes that we as humans do to this planet. And so I have decided not to use those materials in my professional life. And this is actually a building that is completely without concrete and completely without any structural steel. And we also avoid other non-beneficial materials like plastics and others. There is sure some plastic, but very little. And what you saw there was the sections. You can see how the tree huts are sitting on top of the tree trunks. This is an image from the substructure, and the biggest challenge is, of course, to avoid concrete when you go below the ground. But basically the same way as we just saw in Gothenburg, we have one layer of foam glass in the bottom, lying directly in the sand and gravel that we have in the bottom. And on top of this, we have one layer of waterproofing and also with termite protection, because termites is maybe the biggest threat to timber in this climate here. And then we have this timber box, which is stiffened with mass timber walls. And you can also see some glue lam elements that are there not to carry the building as such, but to carry the stone and the sand that we have on top of the box as the paving in the exhibition. And it was we had to fight really hard to get an acceptance from the local authorities to build this without any concrete in the ground. They even offered to pay the concrete and do the job for us, just if we please could use concrete in the bottom. But we refused, and we won this fight at the end. So there is, I think, another section, and this is an example of to what extent we are actually using timber in this building. So I don't know if you can see this on the image behind me, but we are in a room that have the inner side of the CLT elements as the inner walls, and we're also using some 3-ply to cheat sometimes, where we have to put a lot of installations on top of the CLT. But we're also using things like wood fiber insulation, and we have wood fibers in the ceilings. We have the bathrooms were prefabricated in Sweden as timber boxes, CLT boxes, finished to just put in the building. And I think this is an excellent example of how far you can come when you really want to achieve something. And I hope that we will get a lot of attention from the community here on the Expo. Because I must say, we had a question about this earlier on strategies on how to get the world to also understand the virtues of timber construction. And this is the place to be if you want to meet people from other countries that are really interested in progress and to find a sustainable future.
Thank you, Staffan. Very impressive and very interesting to see. I must ask you, what has been the most difficult by building this special building in a country with no tradition of timber building? And on top of that, a very strict building code.
Yeah, I mean, the big advantage that we have working in the Expo area is, of course, that there is an organization from it's called the One-Stop Shop, and it's a part of the Expo organization that takes care of the communication between the participating countries and the local authorities. And they have been very, very helpful in making it possible. But I must also say that the local authorities have been very flexible in accepting other solutions that they normally have in this country. So both the DCD, which is the local civil defense, that is fire basically, and the Dubai South, that takes care of the structural aspects, have been very flexible. But we are having a seminar day after tomorrow with all the timber countries and all the authorities that have been involved to see what experiences can we find from the timber construction that we have in the Expo for the future and the future of timber in Dubai and the other Persian Gulf countries.
Thanks a lot. And Staffan, you continue to be with us in this discussion that we are about to have. Wood construction is on the verge of a breakthrough for the mass market, and designing and building an apartment building or an ordinary office buildings of 5 to 8 stories is no longer a hassle. So why is it so important to challenge in the way that you all did in your projects? Will you perhaps start?
Yeah, I think it's the world of construction, of architecture, of urban planning. It's such a complex space to work in somehow that it's not only physically being able to build a building, it's actually conducting the whole process and finding the financing. It goes deep into our society. So I think we need to show these kind of projects that go quite far beyond to kind of broaden the way for other projects, even if we technically know that a 6-story housing project is not that difficult. We're doing projects outside of Sweden as well, where it's not allowed. So there's a lot of development that still needs to be done for this to be applied at a larger scale.
Yeah, to show lead the way, I guess. For you, I mean, this project is we're the first up, and of course it's an investigation of how to build, and this project and Sarah Culture Center is also tailor-made for its purpose, which leads us to a number of different solutions that can be applied to more conventional projects in the end, and to make them the next developers ensure that they can build in timber.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, we have to challenge ourselves to lower our climate impact. And I think especially municipalities, and especially the big ones with a good economy, they should take the lead and show the way forward to make this transition. So I think we have that responsibility.
Do you also, being part of the municipality, do you also challenge within your organization?
Yeah, I think we have this huge challenge to meet the targets, the climate targets agreed by the politicians. So we all of us have this big challenge. Yeah.
Staffan, I hope that you can hear us, and probably you have also a comment on this question on the importance of being a challenger.
I mean, especially here. I mean, the Expo is about showing the world where we are standing, and this has been the core of the world exhibitions since 1851, and it's a lot of progress that has been presented in world exhibits.
At the same time now, we had the inauguration of the COP26 just this weekend. Has there been any talks or discussions around that, also in Dubai?
Oh, sure. We had the mayor of Kuala Lumpur here yesterday, and he was on his way to Glasgow. And so there was a direct connection between what we are doing here and what they are doing up there in Scotland.
What do you expect from your suppliers? I mean, you are all challengers, but what do you expect from your suppliers? Do you have like a wish list? Do you feel that they are actually on board with your ambitions, or what is the situation? Do you work jointly?
Yes, I have a wish list. If I limit myself to two things, we want to reuse products and use circular products. So we demand for products with a long life length, and we wish that the suppliers also can take back these products and ensure the quality of this product and sell it again. And it should be a really good business model, I think. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we need climate data. So environmental product declarations. If we have that, we can choose the products with the lowest climate impact. But we need comparable numbers. So these are two things that we really...
Are you about to get that? Is the industry getting ready? I mean, also in Sweden we have the fact that you have to have climate declarations, not for all building types, but for most of the building types already from next year. So the industry should be a bit prepared.
Yeah, and the climate declarations, they are for the entire building. And some of the products may be based on generic data, but when we choose products, we really need the environmental product declarations, and we see more of that. So not all products have it, but we when we demand for it, I also think more producers will
make sure to have what you're asking for. Yes. Yeah. What do you say? Is there anything
Yeah, I think it's one thing that we would wish for is matching the demand, increasing the supply. I think in Sweden we have a unique situation where we had a great increase these last years, enabling us to do this building, Sarah, but also many other timber projects. But when we get abroad, we often see that there's a great limitation in how many suppliers there are and the actual availability. Even though there is a big forest industry and a timber industry, it's not axed towards buildings. And I think there's huge potential internationally. Because there's such a big interest in building in this way.
And the knowledge of the supply chain to have an efficiency in order to get the material, I would say. And in this Sarah Culture Center, we have worked so close to the manufacturer, developing these, so that we have adjusted our structure so that they could fit their production chain, and also to try to make them aware that their panels will be the interior fittings or the expression of our building. So it's they become also the architect,
which is good, perhaps. But do you see any limitation in terms of policies or regulations? Is that something that hindering or supporting or?
It differs from each country, of course, and I think we're fortunate in Sweden that we're working for fire, for example, the performance-based requirements, legislations. But so new standards for that takes, for example, timber in consideration. I think that would be a good way forward.
I think also that when we have new materials, the building regulations are not adjusted to that. For instance, when we use clay as a building material, it's one of the most common building material in the world, but we have some kind of lost the knowledge to use unfired clay as a construction material, and then also the building regulation has to be updated for that.
To support that?
Yeah, to support it.
What do you say, Staffan? Do you have any wish list for the... I guess you have.
I have a wish list. First, I would like your members, Susanne, to step up and to be more active and really working to spread this technology. Secondly, we have to develop the mass timber construction and get rid of the polyurethane glue and to get rid of all the screws. In this pavilion, we have 12 tons of screws and brackets, which is unacceptable. We have to have timber fasteners. And the third thing I would like to say is that the huge potential of this technology and what we are doing here is in the developing world, where we have a lot of deforestation and destroyed forests that could be used, and where timber construction can actually be a driving force to make a global impact. So those are the three things that I have on my wish list.
Yeah, so developing the supply chain, including also the sequestration of the raw material in terms of resilient woods or forests.
Right. Yeah.
And going the other way, do you expect anything from your clients? Do you want to see your clients being more bold or visionary? But that's perhaps a question also to you, Staffan, being an architect with your own practice.
Yeah, but I'm also my own client in some projects, and that is, of course, the reason for that is that I don't find the clients that I would like to have.
It's easier.
Therefore, I've developed my own projects.
What do you say? Do you have this kind of discussion with your clients on where to set the ambitions and goals?
In every project, we try to challenge our client to take one step forward and to see how far we can get with sustainability. But I think the private developer, they are catching in, and they're also interested in these, and especially since sustainability or climate declarations is going on board next year. We are all aware, there is an awareness of this matter.
They're adjusting.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
I think it's time now to wrap up here and to go to Annika and Dubai again, Annika along with Staffan, and to learn whether there are any questions from the audience in Dubai.
I would like just to start with a question by myself, because we heard about elevator shafts in wood, ground material in reused glass, and in Dubai we're hanging right now in a giant tree hut. So to me this session is a lot about innovation, and I wonder what are the preconditions that's been important to allow you to be creative and innovative?
This to me?
I start with you,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, in this case, operating in a world exhibition, and we have special circumstances, and of course, it's expected that we do something that will have an impact. So we would fail our purpose if we didn't challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
And I also think that our project is very popular, especially among the people that have been working with all the pavilions, from the Expo organizers, and also I think from some of the local authorities. So I think that we have also been successful in challenging.
Okay, Susanne, do you have anyone with you that would like to comment on this?
Yes, what do you say, Oskar?
Yeah, I think that there's been a huge drive from the client, in this case the municipality of Skellefteå, to do something new and to see how they can build this project in a more sustainable way. And also an openness to actually embrace whatever the innovation process actually brings forward. And in this case, like you said, it's become throughout the process more and more timber in the structure. So it's not been to set a goal that's very high and then kind of getting as close as possible. It's been setting a reasonable goal and then exceeding it.
Yeah, lift from there. And we were working with an innovative, for example, the 3D models. There has been we did that because we knew that the construction time would be much faster. So that was the main reason why we wanted to do it. And then we also wanted to express that in the architecture as well, so that they'll two merge. We save time and we make a beautiful building.
Yes, and I think in order to reach our ambitious climate goals, we need innovation to get there. And of course, we need resources to achieve that, and also leadership and an innovation process, so that we can do this transition in a safe way, in a sustainable way. And I think, each actor in the city of Gothenburg, for instance, we need to work more with innovation, because it's needed to reach these goals.
Thank you. Annika, do you have any other question?
I just have one, and I wonder if you were nervous before rising any parts of these buildings?
I think everyone was very nervous when the first hotel module was to be mounted on site, and especially when it was then removed, because this was a planned process actually to use the first module as a prototype, both in its construction but also in the actual assembly on site, to learn from every module so that the process goes faster and faster. But I think everyone was quite nervous when it was to be mounted on site to make sure that it fit. And it did.
Nervous moments, yeah.
I was not nervous, more excited for doing this, especially with the new materials that we haven't used before. So I was not nervous. I don't know.
Nervous but excited.
Yes.
That's a good feeling. And I don't know about you, Staffan. Perhaps also.
Yeah, we after a couple of months after we started the project, and we have solved many of the tricky structural issues, then I realized that there are termites, and this weekend of termite panic, I will not forget.
A weekend of termite seems like something from last weekend and Halloween, perhaps. Horrific.
Yeah, right.
So I think that will end our questions from Dubai.
Thank you, Annika. Then I have one question, or rather something that I'm thinking of. All of you have shown in your projects and in your buildings that you have already exceeded actually the goal of climate neutrality. You have a fossil-free kindergarten, you have a climate-positive cultural building, and we know also that the forest is a climate-positive one. How could we accelerate this? How could we actually get this way of building the knowledge? How could we make sure to accelerate this as fast as we need to?
Yes, I really think it's important that we share the knowledge, all of these good examples, so that we can learn from each other. And also, we still need innovative collaborations, also between nations, to do this journey together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this becomes more standardized processes, so that it comes everyone to gain, not only the one that takes the lead.
Yes, to make this the new business as usual. Not the same business as usual, but the new practice.
And I think it's a really exciting time because, I mean, there's innovation all the time here, and so we need to be quick on our feet and adjust our way of thinking and working to the new methods that will come and new innovations.
So sharing the knowledge that we have and using the knowledge that we have gained throughout these bold projects. So by that, I think that we will wrap up. Thank you very much for participating in this discussion here today in the studio, and to you, Staffan, in the forest in Dubai, and to you, Annika. And we see you tomorrow when we continue the event.
I think it's been a very intense and informative day today. So, and I think we all have learned that this can be one way to pioneer the possible. But I think this arrangement is also a great example of how we can use the Smart City Sweden platform to highlight different parts of Swedish sustainable development and to reach out with it international. So I would encourage you all, if you want to know more about Smart City Sweden, please keep in contact. And with that, I say thank you all for today. And we're here from Dubai. We're already looking forward for tomorrow's program.
Thank you, Annika. We see you tomorrow. It's clear that we have gotten questions and engagement, and we will continue tomorrow. And to all of you in Dubai, make sure to take the opportunity to talk to Annika and her colleagues, and to Staffan, of course, with your questions. Thank you all again, once again, for attending. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.